So we'll continue today with page 171 in the 5 a.m. Club. This is from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Do not talk about giftedness and inborn talents. One can name great men of all kinds who were very little gifted. They acquired greatness. They became geniuses through qualities the lack of which no one knew what they were capable and what they boast. They all possess the seriousness of the efficient work person which first learns to construct the parts properly before it ventures to fashion a great whole. They allowed themselves time for it. They took more pleasure in making the little, the secondary things well, than in the effect of a dazzling whole. The entrepreneur read a second quote that had been carefully written with what she guessed was an indigo-colored ink fountain pen. The phrase was from the English poet William Ernest Henley. Imagine these words infusing the deepest and most unstained part of your soul. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my faith. I am the captain of my soul. The masters and geniuses and the heroes of civilization all live hard lives, expanded the billionaire. They trained tough. They played through pain. To borrow a term a lot of superstar athletes use these days, they pushed their potential fiercely. They were ambitious, ceaseless, and ferocious when it came to the complete capitalization of their grandest potential. The Latin root word of the word passion means to suffer. These women and men suffered for their visions, ideals, and aspirations. They suffered for the increase of their skill, and they sacrificed for the realization of their prowess. They endured enormous anguish as they advanced their crafts and abandoned their temptations. And I must tell you, these illustrious performers also suffered for the state of the world. Playing small with your promise demotes our world because the planet becomes a poorer place without your greatness in it. One can name great men of all kinds who were gifted very little. Coming from humble beginnings, unless we develop the mind, unless we take the risk with the challenges that we are facing, things won't ever really change. They will stay the same. The shots that we don't take, we will miss. When you are faced with a difficult situation, our reaction is, let's just find something easier. Let's do something else. Let's try something else. The resistance we meet, our knee-jerk reaction is to give up. If you're looking for a sign from the universe or whomever it is you pray to if you pray, friction, a challenge, going uphill, and this is how John Maxwell puts it, he talks about failing forward. That is what you are praying for in terms of a sign. Instead of pausing or stopping completely, that is an indicator that maybe you should keep going. And instead of thinking of how challenging this is, think of what's on the opposite side of that. Because every comfort, every goal, every dream, every gift, every blessing, the lifestyle that you dream for yourself or somebody in your life is outside of your comfort zone. It is past the road of suffering, but you have to pass that particular road. There's a motivator, an inspirational speaker by the name, I think his name's Eric Thomas, a hip hop preacher. His philosophy on becoming wealthy means not just you enrich yourself, but you can do so with the right moral character. You can be a decent, an amazing human being. You don't have to sell your soul, your values, your principles, and make those types of compromises. When I hear of athletes that play through the pain, watching Michael Jordan's documentaries, there were many games when he was injured. I think one of the best and most memorable games that Michael Jordan played was the time when he was a huge top scorer, but he also had a super high degree fever. The moments, and I talk about my kids a lot because I'm really trying to understand what it means to be a full-time business builder and also an active parent, every time I thought about giving up because I've lost all patience, somehow I wake up the next day thinking either I said something I regret and I'm apologetic about it, or I was able to maintain my composure, and either one of those feelings was always followed by this. Somehow I have woken up today and I feel that my vessel, my threshold, my capacity, my kakayahan, my pasensya, it's somehow longer and I can do more than yesterday. But during the moment of the challenge, when I thought about giving up, I didn't think that. And that's okay. I am understanding the value of certainty. And certainty doesn't necessarily mean that you won't have problems. Certainty is knowing that the problem you are facing is there because you have to overcome that if your goal, your dream is really what you want to achieve. It is a problem that turns into a gift. It is pain that gets converted to pleasure. It's something where over time, it can work for you and in your favor. You hear this with some of you that are new, especially when you experience your first challenge. I tell you, whatever you need to say to yourself, to remind yourself, this is not a moment to quit. This is a moment for you to find a way to keep moving forward. And I want you to get to that place where you can go from a mistake to holding your head up high, because now all of a sudden, again, you've turned that negative into a positive. Now, in closing, I'll share with you the lifetime habit arc, because we talk about small changes every day that we need to make. Number one, it starts with a trigger. What is an event in your life that had inspired a change for you? Second, what is a ritual, a protocol, a system, a series of actions that you are taking to address that trigger? Maybe that's something you want to expound on. What is the reward, the goal, the dream, the gift, the blessing, the aspiration? Why are you doing that? What are you trying to gain that is so important to you? Maybe your goals have changed. What are the new ones? Maybe you just realize that you want something. What is that? Most of us, when we sacrifice for others, we tend to sacrifice one of the greatest things, which is our own passion, our own desire. You cannot turn that off. That is part of you. It is natural to want, to desire, to dream. You can have everything that you want. That has to be part of why you are working, because you can't go full 100% for other people. That's not possible, because the only way for you to give to others is to understand first how to give to yourself. And you hear this time and time again. In order for you to find a partner, you need to get to a place where you love and genuinely accept yourself. So what's that reward? What's that gift? Item number 4 is the repetition. Day in and day out, do you remind yourself and reflect on that event that changed your life? To this day, I still find time to remember that growing up, my mom saved all her allowance and lunch money and any money she would earn to set aside so that I would have money to go to college. I remember that. I remember the times that Mama would insist on showing us how to use the fork, the knife, how to eat at a dining table, how to have courtesy, manners, and grace. And that was so weird to us because growing up, we weren't rich, we weren't wealthy in the material sense. So we would wonder, why are we even learning these things? Sometimes the most that we could afford was the Happy Meal, was the Value Savers meal. That's all that we could afford. And yet here we are pretending at the dinner table that we are surrounded by steak and fancy food. Why? Because Mama had the vision that one day her kids would be successful. And she wanted us to learn how to behave and carry ourselves in that environment. What's the ritual that you do? What's the reward? And how many times are you repeating this?